Have you ever wondered what the coach of an Olympic gold medalist and world record holder would say about freestyle technique? I caught up with current coach of Chalmers, Delaney, who's an Australian Olympic silver medalist and former Australian record holder himself, to get his take on freestyle technique. What does it take to become fast and efficient? And what are the key areas of freestyle technique that he looks to develop with his athletes?
I think body position relates so much to head for me, so I'll connect those two together. But you're always looking at nice long neck, I think is the key. And then that helps, then your body can rotate around your spine much better, and that helps you obviously with your rotation and your length. I think that's a big key, and then making sure those hips are actually up. And if you're looking down at the bottom of the pool with a nice long neck and really good posture, then you're setting up your good body position from that. You're looking for a nice tight kick. Depending on if you're going for more distance or if you're then going more sprint freestyle, but sprint freestyle, you're looking at constant tight kick, which then helps lock in the hips. We want to make sure we're generating a lot of torque through your core by keeping those hips locked on, and then that relates to the kick being nice and tight. So if you can do that, then you've got something to like initiate the catch from to the opposite hip. You create that torque in your body, and like kick it probably only contributes to between maybe 10 and 15 propulsion. But then if you lose your legs, you lose your hips, you lose the core, you lose the connection of the stroke, and that's where it goes. So it's so important to be conditioned in kick for those types of sprint events, probably 200 down, but making sure that you are conditioned with your kick, because if that goes at the end of your race, the connection goes.
I then asked Ash about Kyle Chalmers and Isaac Jones, two of his athletes who made the Australian Olympic team.
Kyle's stroke is, if you look on top of the water, it can be a little bit messy, and he's got a really big kick up above the water, but nothing ever, if you then look underneath the water, is almost perfect. The kick doesn't go below his body line, so there's no drag at the back. He uses his kick for connection of the stroke and timing, and then he's got that loping stroke where he just connects on and he just drives through the water with his rotation. So our goal is to connect right at the top there, and then he's got this amazing catch from top to halfway down, and then he's got another press out the back where he holds amazing water, and then all of that sets up with really good length. He tries to go connecting on his left for rotation, and then length for right. So they're his cues to his stroke. And you can see that the way that he swims, that loping stroke, but he's just so powerful through the water. You go Isaac, who's 21.6 for a 50 he's very much straight arm over the top of the water for the 50 and then his recovery really starts from he's really driving out the back. Doesn't want to be flicking the water and continuing out, but it's a drive underneath the water, and then it's around the side of he finds that just balances him out, and all momentum moving forward is where Kyle is a bent arm freestyler in the recovery. And we work on really trying to have that relaxed hands, or with anyone in freestyle it's called recovery, should be nice and relaxed. As soon as you start to tighten up, using way more energy than you need to, and then you're probably going to overreach, or you're going to drive in too hard because you're not relaxed. Your hands should be nice and relaxed the whole way through until you just start to put a little bit of tension on it when you start your catch. So that's what I look for, nice and recovered, nice and relaxed recovery. You're definitely looking at, for your entry, is soft hands, and again, but depending on the stroke, it all depends where those hands enter. So again, crossing over or entering in wide, that's not what we want. Everything's got to be in line with your shoulder, because when you start that press, that's where you're going to be strongest. If you start to lose, or you're a little bit wide, or your press starts to go out wide, then you're already in a weak position. One, it can compromise your shoulder for injuries, but two, you're just missing all of the good water right in front of your shoulder where you're the strongest. That way you can utilize your lats, and making sure that's all in line. Easier said than done, because when you're laying down in position and your hands above your head, so that's where the coach comes in, or video feedback comes in, really important, because it always feels like you're in line. You look at the camera and you're way out here. So I think that's really important. Definitely get that video footage. So when you're setting up your catch, the very basic is, again, your hand in line with your shoulder, and fingertips, we're talking about freestyle, fingertips pointing to the bottom of the pool, and then because you're getting maximal force going backwards, as soon as you start to move your hand out of the way or swivel out of the way, then you're letting go of that water. But then looking at the top catch, and then you're looking at a second press using your forearm for that end of the stroke. You really want to feel like you're pushing to your ankles, then you come up into that recovery position. But what I then go to the next level is more about connection. So if you could have the best catch in the world, but if it's not connected to your rotation, connected to your core, connected to your hip, you're just doing everything with your arms and you're disconnected. So you're really trying to find the connection of the stroke. And that's how you set it up to being the full connection with your catch. And that's when you're going to have a much smoother freestyle and be more efficient.
I then asked Ash if he has any favourite drills that he likes to give his squad.
Call it freestyle timing drill, but easy to do with fins. It's one arm out in front and then the other arm just sits up here. So you rotate over, you're kind of trying to hold your good body position, constant kick, and then the catch here out in front has to initiate this arm coming through. Because if you just bring this over, you're already stuck into 3/4 catch up and then this one just gets out of the way. But if you actually set it up all right, you got pressure on the water and then you pull yourself into that next rotation. And then that's the timing of the stroke. So again, it's that one, the arm out in front leads it. So you're pulling yourself in and then I talk about the catch pulls this shoulder in, the arm's just connected to it. So when you actually do it and you extend your arm, that shoulder comes in at the same, it's leading that arm. And then because obviously your shoulder's connected to your trunk, and then that's where you start to build that connection a little bit more. Yeah. If you go no breath, very easy to do, then you need to work out the timing of the breath as well. Yeah. The timing of the breath for what I want my guys to do is as your hand's coming through, you should start to turn your head. So your hand's entering while you're taking your breath. And then it should be nice and quick and it initiates back when you actually start to apply pressure there. It's a very common mistake is you see the other arm coming over and then your head has to get out of the way of that other arm coming over. And that's going to be a little bit more sprint model. But if you're then pulling yourself back in, you're pulling it back in and then your hand should be in front of your eyes as this starts to come through. So then, and again, that's probably more sprint model than it would be for distance. But that's definitely the same concept, you're probably just a little bit later if you're doing distance. In terms of breathing patterns, I think, again, it comes down to the individual and you can go 2s for rhythm. You can go 4s because it creates more length to your stroke because you're allowed to keep your head down and you can feel the length and the rotation going through. And then, like I said, it goes to more the individual because then you can go on the flip side, you can breathe 2s, but then they might start to lose their length because of it and shorten up. But then what do they need then for rhythm? So you've got a whole lot of different models that you could sort of go off. I know some people breathe 2-2-4s. You could go 4s on the way down, 2s on the way back. It's all how you find your breathing model. Yeah. So I don't have a particular one that I would teach the most, but I do like breathing 4s for 100. I don't know why. For me, when I was swimming, that's what I liked. But then you've got someone like Ariane Titmus that breathes 2-2-4 in a 400 freestyle. So, but it's how you train. So you need to condition that. If you want to breathe 4s, you've got to do it every time you do a pace 50, then that's what you've got to do. So you've got to condition that and you can do it easy. You could do it 6s if you really wanted to, but it's got to be what you think is the optimal right for you.
And what about favourite cues or phrases that he likes to use when he's coaching?
I think one of the phrases I would use the most is length. I'm very big on efficiency and counting your strokes. So I'm always looking for length because what happens when people tighten up at the end of the race, what do you see them do? They start to just chop in. So the more you can keep practicing holding your length, and that's length out in front and then length through the catch, that's sort of what I'm talking to them about a lot. Yeah, I think when you're working on your technique, I think it should be done slow but very thoughtful. So you don't want to rush your way through it, because then that starts to mask mistakes. So it's like you're hiding all the imperfections by just rushing through it. So I always try and get my guys to slow down, think about it, then you can balance a little bit more. Or if you're unbalanced, you can start to feel that. So it's more about feel. I mean, I've had the best of both worlds, right? Like, I was a swimmer on the Australian team, and then now coaching, getting kind of close to that level as well. I feel like I've been able to transfer a lot of my knowledge, or at least my feel as a swimmer, to then now coaching, sort of being able to explain it really well. But there's been a lot still that I need to learn as a coach. I think that's really important to be aware of. But it just gives me an advantage knowing how it feels and knowing what the sets are like, and like if they're hurting or where the pain comes, and then trying to communicate that to the swimmers as well. So I think that's where it's been really good. But yeah, like I said, still plenty to learn in the coaching space. But I think if we're not constantly improving, then we're kind of just staying still. So I think that's really important to think about.
Are there any common mistakes that you see being made when coaching high performance athletes?
I think the biggest one for me probably is overtraining. You've got to make sure, like when I'm thinking about speeds, and you've got to make sure you can actually hit your top speed. So if you're tired or being overtrained, then you don't have the ability to go when the coach wants you to go. So I think that's a really important one for me. So if you're too tired and you can't hit the top speeds, then you're probably not going to hit the speeds that you need, and then that's then going to transfer over. You're going to be stuck in that zone of just a little bit down, and you're going to start to shrink it right down. Your slow is going to be too fast, and then your fast is going to be too slow, and then you're stuck right in that threshold middle level.
What's the hardest set that you've ever done?
I've got two that I sort of go to about that. One is one that I did a lot with Rowan Taylor. It was 450s on 2 minutes, and then it was probably about 400 or 500 meters of removal, and I'd do that 3 to 4 times. But it was the 50s were best average, but like my lactate would get well over 20 lactate in that sort of set. Even though I'm just swimming, basically it was just 100 pace, making sure I was hitting 100 stroke rate, 100 count. So I was quite specific in that sense. But it just accumulated, and it was just by the third or fourth set, it was just an absolute grind. But not difficult to ride or anything like that. It's a pretty basic set, but it's probably the level of detail you put into it. The other one was more of a hypoxic one that I did with Vince Rayleigh, but we would do 8 200s backstroke, but we would progress, go 15 underwater off the first wall, 20 underwater on the second wall, 25 underwater on the third wall, and then 30 underwater on the last one. And the time cycle was 3:30. I could make all those underwater, but it was the time cycle that ended up getting you. And it was just a hard mental grind because you could get through the first two. It was the middle ones that was just insanely hard. And then you were just so out of breath by the last couple that that was tough. I'd have to say my best ever race was probably my 200 backstroke in 2009, where I broke the Commonwealth record and went 155.8. Everything just came together in that race. I just executed it really well. The process was spot on. We'd made a shift 2 years before to say I was going to start focusing on the 200 backstroke, and all of that kind of led to that moment. So, but I look back now and I look back at the video, and it probably wasn't necessarily, there's 10 things I can pick apart of it as a coach now, but it was still my best performance because of how well I put the process together. The worst ever race I did was, actually, it was when we had this hard training camp, and it was part of a national camp that we did with Swimming Australia, and we had to come and race a Grand Prix in Brisbane, and it was also the 200 backstroke, but it was more because I didn't really want to do it, and it was so terrible, and I thought I was putting in the effort, but I swam it a little bit slower, which means I sunk down the water, and it still hurt so much, even though I didn't really want to do it. But it was just terrible mindset going into the race, and then it was a terrible race attached to it. So you have to be 100% in, and if you're going to be a professional athlete, or even an athlete that just wants to take ownership, don't even have to be professional, you're there for you, and you've got to do what you need to do, and doing a subpar swim like that is just not good enough. So, but again, maybe being a little bit younger and immature, but you've got to have those mistakes or failures to learn from them. I think the best ever advice I'd been given, or it's probably actually more of like, I guess, a way of learning, but Kaizen, have you heard of that before, where it's continual learning? I think if you take that into anything into life, and Rowan Taylor was a big one on this, being my coach and now the national head coach, I really took that on board, and I think that is, if you're continually learning, you're continually bettering yourself, I think that just becomes, you're always progressing and you're never staying still. I said that before, but I think that's a really important bit of advice and a good way to live your life.